Hi, this is video number 75. Monday morning here. Hope you had a decent weekend. Got my Steelers shirt on here. Preseason starts in a little bit over a month, so got to get ready for the football season. Got some for the beard. I got some. It's called beard oil. I didn't know there was such a thing, but I thought, well, see what it's about, And I put it on. It smells really good. I don't know that it does anything else for me, but get the beard. I'm hoping after I find or if someone finds the something that will help with withdrawal, make it faster, and kind of finds like an answer for it, that maybe I'll keep the beard. I don't know. Kind of getting used to it now. Did a workout this morning, finding that I'm able to add more resistance to it, so my back and my neck are feeling a lot better, getting stronger. So that's a good thing. Went out and pulled some weeds earlier, got a shower. Thought I'd come up here and do a video before I have my lunch. Over the weekend, had my grandson here. By accident, we found a new kind of nature video by a guy. His name is Coyote Peterson. He goes around the country. I don't know if I guess he goes to other countries too. He finds different kinds of animals in the wild, and for some reason, he lets them bite him. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. Maybe so that you can see the pain on his face, and then he tells you not to do this at home. So it's kind of it's entertaining. It's amusing. We found it pretty interesting. Actually, got some laughs out of it, and we were asking each other why would you do this? But it's a pretty good video. So if you ever want to look at a nature video that's kind of interesting and different, Coyote Peterson is the guy's name. Is Google that and it'll come up. I got 5 emails that I want to talk about. 2 from Karen in the United Kingdom, 2 from John, whose emails I've talked about before, and 1 from someone else. I'll start with Karen's first here, since hers was actually, I got it first. So thank you again for these videos. I'm not sure you received my recent emails regarding Matt Samet and his setbacks. I was just wondering what your thoughts were on Matt Samet's recent setback, and so forth, like reaction to pain, medications, and so forth. Okay, I'll talk about that first, and then I'll go on with the emailing. Matt, I read Matt's book, Death Grip. Really, really good. He's a great writer. He's an excellent writer. Very, very descriptive. One thing that I remember when I read it, and it was sort of amusing to me, and I didn't think there was such a word, but he uses the word fecalith, which I didn't think was actually a term at all. I thought he made it up, but it has to do with, like, your bowels, and like it comes out and it's hard and all of that. It's so I actually looked it up. It is a word. He's a really good descriptive writer. As far as his setbacks, I've read different things. I don't know exactly what that part of his story is. I know he had written about drinking too much coffee and taking pain medications and so forth. But I really don't know if this was like the setback after like the first couple of years, or if there's been a recent one or not. But it kind of goes to the whole idea of like people who are further out, like maybe a few years and so forth, and people have setbacks. You read about this and so on, and you don't. It's scary, to be sure. Like if you're in withdrawal and you read about somebody who's out there a number of years and they have a setback, it's like it freaks you out. I know that because I remember that happening to me. But you have to remember too, and people would tell me this when I was in withdrawal: you don't know everything about that person. You know what kind of stress they might be under, what they're drinking and eating and so forth, any kind of drugs they may have taken. So you can't say one way or the other. You just can't. You can't. And I would freak out over it too. It's very hard to see someone who is far out and all of a sudden they're having some withdrawal issues again. So I'm not really sure about Matt's like the setback that you're talking about here, but surely something caused it. Maybe he himself doesn't know. It's hard to say. Okay, I'll continue with her email. More to the point, I am literally getting brutally battered every day, all day, recently with so much horrific symptoms. I'm struggling like an acute, but I'm 10 months out. It was bearable for a while, but last week it got unbearable again. Horrendous anxiety, physical and mental akathisia, adrenaline surges, mild visual and auditory hallucinations, all kinds of different sensations on my skin, and many more. Please, can you tell me if this is normal, or will I be the one who is stuck like this? I am really rapidly losing hope and becoming increasingly suicidal again. I just need hope, please. Thank you always. It is normal. Anything is normal in withdrawal. Withdrawal is not itself is not normal. I mean, this is not a normal way to live, and these are not normal feelings and thoughts to have. But in withdrawal, these are not unusual at all. I have all of these kind of physical symptoms, anxiety, depression, all kinds of things. 10 months is really good healing time. But you can still have a lot of stuff going on at 10 months. And I know it wears you down, Karen. I know it's just so, I remember that and I didn't go, I mean, people go longer than I did for sure. I think most people actually do get better before I did, but a lot of people go further too. And I know it's just after a while, you start to wonder, like, am I that one person who is not going to make it? And the answer is no. I mean, I thought I was the one person. I thought I was the most depressed person on earth when I was going through withdrawal. But I'm finding that there are many, many more who are just as depressed as I was. I don't know if there's a bottom for depression or not. That you can't humanly feel as any worse than a certain level. I don't know, but it was very bad. And I know this wears you down. It's like, is this ever going to end? It does end. I assure you, it does end. I promise. It takes a long time for some people. It seems everlasting. Okay, she sent another email after this one. I hope you are well. I've sent a few emails recently, but I think they must have not sent properly. No, I got them. Well, I got one of them. And here we are now. I wonder if you can help me with this, please. The fear, terror, akathisia, mental akathisia had all really calmed down a lot and were at a minimum for a few months, but have all come back full force again at month 10, and I'm just devastated and terrified and feel like I will end up back in the psych ward before long. Did you ever have the feeling that you were literally scared of yourself? In capital letters, scared of yourself. I feel like this all day, every day, and that I just need to get away from myself, and the sheer terror and fear were absolutely nothing. I just feel that hell is living and breathing inside every cell of my vibrating body, and although I have great support from my mom, I can't help but still feel so lonely. The akathisia comes and goes, but has me on my knees in tears every time it happens. The mental akathisia has me terrified that I will lose my mind. I'm really struggling, Don, and just need some reassurance. Okay. I'm sure everyone else agrees that perhaps the hardest thing in this is not knowing how long this hell how much more of this hell we have left. Thank you as always. Wow. Yeah, a lot of people have the same, it kind of all boils down to the same fear. And that is that this is going to go on forever. This is the new me. I'm not going to get better than this. And that's not true. It's just not true. I've read it many, many times. I felt that way too. And it is the hardest thing, not knowing. I have often, when I was in withdrawal, and I've talked about this before, that if somebody had said, when I was in the first year, if they said, 2 years from this date, you will be well. And I thought, I can do 2 years because I know without a doubt on this day, I am going to be well in the future. But you can't, no one can tell you that with any certainty. That's the problem. We all get well, we do. But it takes time. People go at a snail's pace. Sometimes it feels like you're going backwards. I know. It's like you have like the windows and stuff, and like you just described, and then you get a wave, and it's like you went backwards, and your body has stopped healing and actually got worse again, which is not the case. That's not true, but that's how it feels. I know. I would like to talk a little bit about like the scared of yourself that you have in capital letters. That's exactly how it is. I've written much about being stuck inside your head, stuck in the blackness. I've read it from other people many times. The same sort of feeling, it's like you have scared yourself. Your brain, I think, has literally done something that, in response to what it perceives as injury or damage or a threat, what benzos have done, and part of your brain believes it's doing what it needs to do to rid itself of that threat, but what it has done is also scaring itself. I know it sounds like I'm going into like a circle here with my words, but I think this cuts the scared of yourself. I think it cuts to the heart of what's going on with the brain and why people are in withdrawal, why it takes so long, why there's so many symptoms, the different kinds of healing when they're wave versus gradual, versus like especially the duration, long durations. I think the brain is trying to figure out how to revert to the place it has to go to feel like pre-benzo again, to feel normal and right, and it can't figure that out. And I think there are ways to maybe actually get it to do that. But so the scared of yourself cuts to the heart of this. I think I remember when I first started doing the research, and somebody on Benzo Buddies had somebody who apparently is, I don't know if they're a neuroscientist or what, but they wrote a big long thing about what's going on with the GABA receptors and so forth. And one of the things in there that they talked about was alteration of gene expression. And I thought the brain would never do that. The brain would never alter like the code of the DNA and create proteins like enzymes and structural proteins that differ from what is coded for in the DNA. But the brain does that. It obviously does that. There's laboratory data to show that. So, and it does it very rapidly. I thought maybe over the course of many months, but apparently over the course of like as little as 2 weeks. I think when we hit dependence, when we hit tolerance withdrawal, the brain has changed the expression of its gene code, its genetic code, and it's kind of doing this to itself, but it doesn't know how to not do it. And I think therein lies the solution. So anyway, I got on a rabbit trail there, but this does end. It will end for sure. But it's scary. I know it's very, very scary. It's terrifying. And hopefully soon somebody will find an answer. Because I think there is one. I honestly think there is. The longer I go, the more I'm sure there's an answer. And there are people looking at what I've written, people with their own ideas. Hopefully we can come up with some sort of consensus among us that maybe this or this could do something and help. And I think as fast as the gene alters, or not the gene, the brain alters its gene expression, it's very, very rapid. I think it could be a matter of something sending or taking it back to its original state, something very, very fast. We'll have to see. I don't know. It's a work in progress. Okay, the next two are from John. And he typically writes about physical things. Don, many times right before I fall asleep, I get a brain zap. So bad my heart jumps and I gasp. I think my heart goes out of rhythm or something momentarily. It's frightening. Right before he nods off. Can you talk about this? Yes. They're called, I think, hypnic jerks or something. I had them too I especially had them during the day when I would try to take a nap. And I can remember many times I would fall asleep, and right at that, like between consciousness and unconsciousness, just jerking up and just being absolutely terrified. And it felt like in some ways I had slept for some amount of time, but I looked at the clock, it was like not even a minute. So that's very, very common. It's like it's almost like being like electrocuted for a second, and you wake up and you're just in terror. Very, very common. Heart races and just it's nasty. That was, of all of the frightening things in withdrawal, that was the nastiest. there was a time in my withdrawal in the first several months that I was afraid to fall asleep because I knew when I wake up, I'm gonna be in absolute terror. So yeah, that one is very common. And I thought that was the one thing too, that as soon as I would wake up from that, I was absolutely certain I could not possibly be well ever again. Um, very, very terrifying. Okay, the second one here, he just sent a little bit ago. Please discuss withdrawal, or is it diabetic nerve pain I'm getting worse as far as my body symptoms, eyes burning, pins and needles, and so on. So the thing about this is withdrawal, it's your nervous system, and it mimics many, many, many other things. Many different kinds of human maladies have the same symptoms. I know a lot of people have Lyme disease or think they have Lyme disease, but the symptoms of Lyme disease very, very similar to that of benzo withdrawal. And the same with like the pins and needles and diabetic pain. That's very similar. They're very similar, and there are other things too that if you're just basing things on symptoms, it's hard to know what's going on. There are any tests you can take to say what's Lyme. Well, I mean there are Lyme tests, but to differentiate between like Lyme, diabetes, benzo withdrawal, and a bunch of other things, there's nothing pretty much that you can do. There are too many illnesses that mimic each other, so you can't really tell. But I mean that the nerve pain and so forth, that's all very, very pins and needles and those feelings, very, very common for benzo withdrawal. Very common. Okay. This last one is from a lady named Joy. Let me see, I got 16 minutes. I got some time left. Okay. Let me see. She writes, thank you for all you do. Videos are great help. I wondered if you know anything about nerve pain during this. It is by far my worst symptom and doesn't seem to be getting better. I'm 14 months now from a cold turkey. I've begun to get concerned as I haven't seen anyone getting this pain in their backs, stabbing awful pain that no pain pills help. I read online that some get nerve pain in their legs, but have yet to find anyone having this where mine is. Have you heard of anyone else getting mostly in their back? Thank you. Okay. Lots of people get it in their back, but I have way back, it's been a couple years now, we did have, our church had a vacant parsonage, and a gentleman from New York came and stayed for 18 months there. We called it the Healing House. That's not really what it was. I wanted to have more people in there than just him, but I couldn't get permission to, so he was left alone a lot, but he had a lot of physical pain, the most I've ever seen in anyone, and he would often get this in his back. He described it as someone like putting a spear down his spine, and I saw him myself literally lay on the floor and just scream out in pain, just writhing in pain on the floor. It was very, very bad. And there's nothing, it just was there. You can't, and he would have a lot of back pain, and he spent a lot of time in bed, and he would have a very difficult time getting in a position where it didn't really hurt in a very, very bad way. So that actually is a fairly common symptom, but you don't read about it a lot. He had it really bad. He is one I can point to and say I have with my own eyes seen somebody have this kind of pain. As far as the bigger thing here for me is people freak out over, why I have this symptom that hardly anybody else has. I've hardly read about this. There must be something wrong with me, extra wrong with me, and that's not the case. The damage, I'm convinced the damage for everyone is essentially the same thing. It's like downregulation of GABA receptors, or the brain has done something to either alter synthesis of GABA, or its distribution has done something to alter its distribution. It's not getting to the receptor. I mean, it has a number of things it can do. Like there's at least 7 or 8 that I listed in my first paper, probably many, many more. So you can't. The thing there is, like, depending on what your brain has done, like has many different options of what it can do to change your GABAergic system and to reduce the inhibition that it sees as injury. And it can also do many things to like the GABA receptors themselves. What can do one thing there? It changes the protein makeup of the proteins, the 5 basic proteins in a receptor. It can change those so that the receptor doesn't work properly. And I think, let me see, I lost it here. Depending also where the different, or it's making these changes where in your body, like your digestive system has a lot of GABAergic stuff going on, and so does your brain. So in different areas of your brain and your body, depending on your specific body and what your body is doing as far as GABA receptors and GABA synthesis and distribution, you're going to have different symptoms for sure. There's no way around that. I think that's why there are so many different kinds of symptoms and different intensities and so forth, because the brain has the option, your body has the option of doing things with the GABAergic system, like different sorts of things, but also in different areas of your body. So you could have multiple symptoms of varying intensities depending on the GABA receptors them too, and how many there are in different areas of the brain and your endocrine system and so forth. So it's not. I know people. I often get emails and questions about, well, I have this particular pain or this feeling or this sensation or these thoughts, and I'm not reading that anybody else has them, and then they freak out. And I understand it. I thought, for me, it was the fear and the depression. I thought I'm not reading about this kind of black depression anywhere. I don't think anybody else has it. Therefore, I must be different, and I'm not going to heal because I'm the most depressed person going through withdrawal and probably on earth. Well, it's not true. And obviously, I'm well now. I'm not depressed. I feel great. But I understand, like when you're the only one who feels a certain way, and you're not reading about anybody else who feels that way. You kind of like, you're already kind of like lonely and you feel alone and isolated, and that just makes you feel more isolated because you're not reading about hardly anybody else that has that symptom at that intensity. So that's understandable. So we're at almost 23 minutes here, and I covered all 5 emails. I got another email from someone who was taking Risperdal, very, very small dose, 0.5 milligram. They've read some things about antipsychotics and their concerns, so getting some tapering questions there from her. And that goes to we're on other meds and we read things and we think it's going to interfere with our withdrawal, and that's typically not the case, but I know there's that fear. So some tapering questions there. And I think a lot of times, if you can taper something that you're on very, very slowly to the point where you can't really feel the cuts, maybe, at least from a psychological perspective, it could be good. When I was taking a bunch of antidepressants and stuff at the beginning of my withdrawal, each time I would get, I was on like 7 or 8 different things when I got out of the hospital, and each one that I could actually get off of, and I hadn't been on them a real long time, it was like a psychological victory. I remember coming out of the hospital and seeing a psychiatrist, and I was on like 8 or 9 different things all at once, and it was that was depressing, thinking like, I'm never ever going to be normal. Look at all of these pills. I had to have 2 of those pill containers just to put all the pills in. It was awful. But I know that feeling. If you're on something else, well, the question is this impeding me? Is this keeping me from getting through my withdrawal and being well? So, and I'm thinking, like, if you can taper very, very, very slowly to where you can barely even feel it, you get a psychological victory there at least. But so that's what I have to say about that. I know that fear. It's not fun at all. None of the fear in this is fun. So anyway, I'm done for now. Caught up on the emails. Hoping to hear back soon from some people on my neuroscience papers, and we'll go from there. Maybe we can crack this nut, and we don't need the psychiatrists and the smart guys. I don't know. To me, it's more a matter of logic and just studying the science. It's not. You don't need to be like some medical person. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, that's all I have for now. So I'll sign off and let you go. As always, I'm right here. Bye bye.